You do normally just talk to kids and not adults.
At this hour.
That's
Oh, wait,
why,
no, that's not true.
That's why you say things like, Mama's tired. I've never heard you say Mama's tired in my...
Not to you. I say it to the kids. That's what I mean. I'm used to talking to the kids.
We need to get you some friends. All right, let's get this thing kicked off here. Oh, that was hot. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to another More Than Before Marriage Edition. It's been a while.
But we're back.
But we're back. You thought we disappeared, but we're still here. It has been a lot of fun, a lot of change, a lot of stress. There's a lot of stuff going on in our world, right?
Oh, yeah. It's been busy.
It's been super busy, which I don't know. We talked about seasons like right in the beginning, and then we kept saying like, we need to stop talking about seasons because we always talk about seasons and it's just about seasons. And I don't know. There's always a season for everything, right?
There is. You're always just in a season of life, a different season or going through something.
Yeah, it's true. So we have been going through a lot of seasons. You guys haven't seen us for a while because we moved.
And we had a baby.
Well, yeah, I guess we had a baby first, and then we moved, and then we've had a lot of stuff going on, which kind of stirred on this kind of thought of like, what are we going to talk about today?
Yeah, so we've had a lot of change.
Yeah, change is a very mild word for what's been going on.
Yes.
I don't know, what would the extreme word of change be? Is there an extreme word of change? Chaos. That's true. Yeah, there has been a lot of change, which actually I think chaos is actually a pretty good word for it, because when change gets out of control, chaos tends to ensue, and we've definitely been experiencing a lot of change in our life, which we're going to talk about that because as couples, we have to know how to manage change. How do you manage change? How do you deal with change?
Well, I was thinking like, okay, I do not handle change well. No, but then I also, I think I have a little bit of both though, because there's some things that I just like, yeah, I don't like change because I like it this way. But then I also like change. Well, obviously I like change when it's good, but it's like sometimes I want something to change. So I'm a little bit better with that.
I feel like the majority of time you hate change.
The majority probably is not. But
change
there's a little bit of both in there.
Change happens and you are the one fighting it tooth and nail. I think that's the true thing when it comes. When it comes to change, I think there really are different reactions to change. Yeah. There are three kinds of people, I think. There are those who they resist change, they fight change, they'll do anything to, stop change from happening, which I think sometimes you might fall into that category a little bit. But then there's also this idea of people that go along with change. Change isn't a horrible thing, but I'm just not going to be the one that actually elicits the change. And so there are people that we know that are really good at going with the flow, right? There's the flowy people. There's the person in the marriage that just kind of goes with the flow. If you got those two people, that already creates some friction. The person that kind of just goes with the flow and the person that does not want change to happen. Then you have that third person that goes into the mix. And I think I might be the third person.
I think you are.
I don't know. I don't think I'm that bad. But the third person is the person who embraces change and then amplifies it, makes it even bigger. And I like change. Let me say that again. Change has grown on me because I have not always loved change. I like starting change, like being a part of it, and then I like taking a grasp on it, but not always. Because, I used to say with personal growth, I think everyone, I used to say that everyone eventually falls in love with change. They fall in love with growth. I don't think that's necessarily true. I think you always constantly have to be challenging yourself to grow, to change. And it's not easy. And the more you change, the more you grow, the more difficult it is. And so like we were saying earlier, we've had a lot of change in our lives. We mentioned a couple of those things. We got a house. That was not expected by any means. Moving has been fun.
Yeah, moving has been a very long process, longer than expected.
Well, then there's kind of the whole thing of like, oh yeah, we're done moving. and then you're never quite done moving, whether that's unpacking. For us, we moved, and then we had to keep going back to fix different things and repair different things. And it was just like, it was this constant, never ending thing. Yeah. And even after we thought we were done, we still found ourselves going back to the old house to do a couple things here and there.
Yeah.
So the house was a big change. What other kind of changes have we kind of been experiencing so far, within the last, 5 months? Wow. Yeah. Sayla's 5 months.
I know, 5 months, because I just was taking her 5-month picture the other day, and I'm like, holy cow, it's been 5 months.
What happened to you?
Yeah, so long time. So,
yeah.
Sayla, our house, we lost our puppy, our little Klekai Husky, Maple.
Yep.
She is no longer with us.
She got sick. That was rough.
Unexpected.
Yeah.
Loss. So
we had Maple for almost 10 years,
yeah,
right?
She was, I think, almost 10.
She was like 9, almost 9.5, I think. Yeah. And that was difficult. She had some kind of growth, they believe, that started growing on her ocular nerve, which is kind of around the same area that there's a nerve for breathing, I guess. And so she was having we originally took her in because she had some issues breathing, sounded horrible. And then from that, the specialist was like, I'm not really worried about the breathing thing, which, when you think about it, like, shouldn't breathing be important?
Yeah, right? Like, what?
They were more concerned with the pressure on her eyes, because she went from being able to see and function fairly well to being completely blind within like 3 weeks.
Yeah, she was like, I think your dog is blind. And I was like, huh?
Yeah, I remember them saying, yeah, your dog is blind. And I was like, you're smoking something, like you're just not, well, we put the treat up to her nose and she didn't do anything. I'm like, that's because it's a well-trained dog. I trained that dog.
I heard him like behind me. I felt it like, we don't give her treats.
We don't give her treats. She knows not to take treats. But, it was very difficult, a difficult decision, but it was one that we made. I think I know it was the right decision, because I just didn't want her to suffer. And after seeing her, it's hard, I think, for an animal to lose sight. And that's not to say that, if you have an animal that loses sight, you're not going to, immediately put it down. But, man, just to see how horrible she looked. She lost weight and a lot of different things. So let's not get into the pity party of that, of talking about our dead animal.
Oh, geez.
Our dead, small, furry family friend. Poor Maple. So that was a huge change. We moved into the house and we're like, we finally have a yard for our dog. It's going to be great. And yeah, that wasn't good. But so we had that as a change of having to put our dog down. That was pretty rough. We also have, when you move into a new house, like we were in a townhouse before. Now we're actually in a house, which is kind of crazy, that has a yard. And now we've realized that we actually have to have things in order to take care of said yard. How stupid is that? You buy a house, you're like, oh, we're good. We're done. You don't have to buy anything else. And then you got to have something to, make sure that the lawn gets done, because you can't just have your lawn growing until, you can't see out of it. And
you get ticks in your yard?
Ticks in your yard?
I don't know. I'm thinking of long grass. I'm like, okay. Well, that's my brain of being paranoid about everything. All bug related.
It's funny that you think of ticks when you hear long grass. Like, okay, guys, if you're listening to this right now, if you're watching this, when you heard her say long grass or me long grass, what's the first thing you think of? When you think of long grass, you think of ticks. When I think of long grass, I think, don't go into the long grass of Jurassic Park, where all of a sudden the raptors come.
Well, our kids might be looking for raptors back there.
I don't know. Rylan is a raptor. She's constantly in the back room. I'm going to eat you. It's like, where did we go wrong with our daughter? She's a dinosaur.
Oh, jeez.
What were we even talking about?
Too many boy birthday parties. Oh, yeah, change. We have problems with
that's what we're talking about. Well, no, it was that we had a lot of things that were going on, a lot of change. We had we bought the house, we had it inspected. It passed inspection. There were a couple things here and there that were more cosmetic than anything.
Yeah.
Moved in. And then what did we discover?
We needed a new dishwasher.
Yeah. New dishwasher.
Didn't work. Family of 6, you need a dishwasher. I mean, you can hand wash. Let's be honest. There wasn't always dishwashers around, but it takes a lot of time.
Have you seen Willow? She's not doing any dishwashing in this house.
When I do the dishes, I'm like scrubbing. I'm like, okay,
she's like
get
taking,
it clean.
she's like taking off a layer of the plate every single time. We got a dishwasher not because we couldn't clean the plates. We got a dishwasher so that we would have plates after Willow cleaned them a couple times.
Yeah.
So we had to, first it was the dishwasher issue, and then we were like, okay, well, let's do a load of laundry. And we went to do a load of laundry, and like a quarter of a load of laundry would fit in the washing machine. And then and then we moved it over into the dryer. And after like 2 hours of drying, it still was not dry. And I was like, this is not happening to us. But if you own a home, you know this, because as soon as you start having problems, what happens? Everyone says, welcome to home ownership.
Yeah.
No one tells you that before you get the home. They just tell you this.
They just laugh at you after.
They're like, hey, yeah, you should buy that house. And then after you buy it, they're like, we knew that was going to happen.
But wait.
There's more. Oh, goodness. And then there was the leaking sink.
And the oven.
And, oh, gosh, I forgot. We still don't have an oven.
We still don't have an oven.
Yeah.
We eat a lot of bread.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we've started making a ton of sourdough.
We were making a ton of sourdough.
We were distributing it to our friends. So a lot of change. There's been a lot of change. But one of the things, I think like one of the things though that has been really eye-opening even within the last couple of days is with so much change, it gets to be this piece where we become apathetic when there's so much change. Like when it's chaos, there's a lot of stuff going on. You become apathetic to change, and you kind of you roll with it because it's happening, but you kind of take a backseat approach to it. And that was something that both of us were kind of talking about recently, just even like yesterday, of why it's important to be careful not to become apathetic to change. What was that specifically for you that you kind of took away from that?
Just that. Well, two things: trusting in the Lord, and then another thing I think of is like, okay, how am I going to be better personally? Because I can just get stuck in these like different things, like different attitudes or thoughts, and it's like, okay, maybe I need to have a different attitude for things too. So,
yeah. Well, and I think one of the other things is one of my biggest takeaways is intentionality behind the change, because so many times when we are experiencing change, we're not intentional with the type of change that we're going through. Because even though some of the change was intentional, like moving was intentional, we intentionally purchased a house so that we could have a family in a house with a yard. You call it a yard. I call it a landing strip of grass. It's
okay for now.
Different definitions of what a lawn is, but hey, it's okay. But at the end of the day, one of the things that I've found, because I've been in personal growth for 12 years now, is that right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, 12 years, because we had our anniversary. Yeah. This last month. Crazy. We didn't talk about our anniversary. We have a lot of stuff to catch up. We'll do that on another episode.
Yes.
But there was kind of this piece where I realized that because I've been in the industry of personal growth for the past 12 years, it's really easy for me to take a back seat and to forget about it and to not be as intentional about it, because it's easy to quote things that you've learned from years ago. It's, the studies and stories and different things. But at the end of the day, are you really growing? Are you intentionally embracing change? Because you can be one of those people that become stagnant and you kind of just allow life to happen to you, which I think we kind of got to that point.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of what it is like on a personal level of like each individual, each of us. It's like, okay, well, for me, it's like there's a lot of change going on, but then there's like, okay, I need to change in this certain way too. Not like changing big things, but like the small things.
Yeah. Well, I think that's huge too, because I think when we think about change, we think about large change.
Yeah.
We think about the change of like, well, changing jobs or changing of adding like a child to your family or moving or fill in the blank of whatever it is. But sometimes the change that is happening is something so minor that we don't even realize that the change happened. Like, for example, one of the things that changed after we moved was, we have boxes all over the place and we're trying to find, a location for everything. The TV, first of all, coffee machine was number one that we got set up. Coffee machine. We had to have coffee. And I think the next day we had the TV up. The reason we originally had that up was because the music kind of comes from the little sound bar that we have. And then from that, we started watching a show. And that show was something that we started to watch every single night because it was, we worked really hard today. We've been unpacking. You've been breastfeeding and we've been dealing with the kids. And we just were so tired that we got into this pattern, this habit, without even knowing that it had changed, of just vegging out in the evenings and losing a lot of productivity, losing a lot of connection time. And it wasn't until within really the past week, I think, that we noticed it. And we're like, hey, this is something that needs to change. Yeah. And so it's that small change that can really make a huge difference. It doesn't have to be huge and dramatic like moving, but it could be something small.
Yeah. And I think even like perspective, like for me, it's like, okay, yeah, there's changes going on. It's busy. We're doing this now. We're not doing this now. But it's more of a perspective change too of, okay, I need to look at this differently.
Yeah. So I think as couples, I'm curious kind of what your thought is on this, but as couples, how important do you think it is to look at change and identify how we view change?
I think is really important because that's going to stem arguments later on, whether or not, like, if we want to do something together, or if we're changing something or something changes that we're not making happen.
Yeah.
It's going to be kind of how we're going to react and respond. And that's, good to know how each other respond to change.
Well, I think it's also important to understand how each person recognizes change, because like for Willow doesn't like change. And so I have to push her out of her comfort zone a little bit more than probably she has to push me out of my comfort zone for things. And that's kind of a good thing to understand. Now, at the same time, I like change. I embrace change. And so it's important for her to maybe put a rein on some of the change to make sure that I'm not going crazy and doing too many things that are outside the box.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
There's that like push and pull and like, okay, got to rein you in a little bit.
Well, and that's kind of the dynamic of a couple. And, wherever there's going to be that dynamic of two people with two different opinions, there's going to be friction. Have we fought recently?
Of course.
It's like at least once a day, I think, when we have at least one argument. And it was interesting. I just saw it right before we started to do this recording. I was watching a small thing with John Delaney, who is with Ramsey Solutions. And one of the things he was talking about was, we hide conflict from our kids as adults. And then our kids grow up and we see the generation now that can't handle conflict with other people. And with your spouse, it's really important to have some conflict in front of your kids.
Yeah.
So they can see that, hey, mommy and daddy fight. It's okay. Did your parents fight?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's how you handle it, right? Because like I remember the other day, I was like trying to hold back tears and you were like, it's okay. You can let them see that you're crying. Yeah. And then like it's good for them
that
to
might
see
have been sarcasm. But
no, but I think it's true because then you can talk about it. And it wasn't like we were fighting about something. I mean,
it wasn't anything like crazy.
Bad. I don't know. Something we were eating for dinner or something. I don't know.
Well, and that's kind of one of the things too, is when you get in arguments at the end of the day, like most of those things are so minute and so stupid. It's like, well, yeah, you're going to have those disagreements. You're going to have that conflict in your life. You have to be able to move forward because life is full of conflict whenever you're with someone else. And when you add more people into the family, into the dynamic, you just tend to have more conflict.
Yeah.
I think one of the other things that I was curious about when it comes to change is, not only do we need to understand how each one of us embraces or pushes back towards change, but also this idea of, do we welcome change in our life? Do you think it's possible? Because being someone who has fought change, has it been easier over the years of being married to me, of someone who likes change? Has it been easier to adapt to want to incorporate more change in life? Or do you feel like you're kind of still in the same spot for kind of people that are maybe like, well, I don't think I can ever change. I think I'm always going to be resistant to change.
Well, I mean, I feel like it's the way that you respond to it, like, together. So you just kind of amplify the good pieces on how we're going to get there. And so it's kind of how you're working together and, I guess, looking at that change. I forget the question. Specifically.
It's the question was specifically geared to, do you think it's possible for someone to embrace change, to move from a place of resistance to all change to a place of welcoming more change and wanting to create more change in life? Do you feel like you've been more open to creating change versus just resisting it?
I mean, yeah, because I think it's part of just growing together as a couple, because you're each growing like individually and then you're growing together. So as you're kind of moving towards each different thing that happens, you kind of become a little bit more open. Well, I have become a little bit more open to trying different things. And it's not even that I don't like change, period. It's just that, I'm able to see that we can get it through it together, whatever it's going to be.
Yeah. I think another thing about change is we have to be willing to kind of put our perspectives down of what we think is going to happen when things are changing.
Yeah.
It kind of brings me back to, because I've studied a lot of communication, and I don't know if you knew this, but there was like an improv class that I took. Do you remember this? I took this improv class. It was like at a college, and a friend of mine was like, hey, you should come check it out. I think you'll be good at improv. And I was absolutely horrible at it. But I do remember one of the rules. There was this game we played, and it was yes and. Like, you have to get up and someone would say something, you have to respond. And the only way to make it work is to say yes and you build on top of it. And I think it's a really good kind of premise to use within our lives, within our marriages, when it comes to change, is when something is changing, to not just fight back and to be stonewalled, but to say yes and add to it, or create parameters that are safe parameters that both you and your spouse can thrive with.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that's another big thing when it comes to change, is you have to be willing to say yes and add to it.
Yeah, exactly. Because then you're not getting stuck in that, like, okay, we're stuck here.
Yeah. If you feel like you are in that pattern of change, maybe that's change that you have not necessarily welcomed in, but it's coming to you, whether you like it or not. Or maybe change is something that you're wanting to implement back into your life, back into your marriage, and you're not quite sure how to do that. Feel free to reach out to us. Send us a note. Let us know that you're listening still. I know that we were gone for, I guess we've been gone for like 5 months. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Time really does fly. But we do want to just say we've missed you guys. We're excited to be back here. We're going to be doing more of our marriage podcast. And we want to make sure that we're adding value to you, because at the end of the day, that's the reason why we're doing this. And so we truly want to say thank you for listening in. Share the podcast with a friend. And anything else?
Nope.
All right. Well, I guess that's it. So remember to be more,
see more,
and experience more together. Look at that. We nailed it. It's 5 months and we still can do it.